Parts of speech. The fundamental building block of all language is the word. Words are classified into parts of speech, according to the way words function in a sentence. It is important to realize that a word's part of speech is not inherent in the word itself, but in the way the word is used. It is not unusual for a word to belong to more than one part of speech class, depending on how the word is used. For example, the word round can be used as a noun, a verb, or an adjective. Noun: should we get another round? Verb: the horses round the last post and head for home. Adjective: he put a small round pebble in his pocket. So, instead of asking the question, what part of speech is X, we should always ask the question, what part of speech is X in this sentence? There are 7 functional parts of speech: nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, conjunctions, and prepositions. There is also, by some reckoning, an 8th part of speech: interjections. Interjections are like asides or commentaries that are really not part of the actual grammar of a sentence. For example, well and dang in the following sentence are interjections. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Dang, I burned my fingers on that pan. Because interjections, by definition, play no grammatical role in a sentence, we will ignore them from this point onward and concentrate on the remaining 7 functional parts of speech. Nouns. The word noun comes from a Latin word that means name. Accordingly, nouns are often defined by their naming ability. A noun is a word used to name a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. There are 2 types of nouns: proper nouns and common nouns. Proper nouns are the names of specific individuals or entities, while common nouns are the names of generic categories. Proper nouns are normally capitalized. See Chapter 15 for a treatment of the sometimes confusing and arbitrary conventions for capitalizing proper nouns. Here are some examples of roughly corresponding proper and common nouns. Proper noun: Abraham Lincoln. Common noun: President. Proper noun: Fred Flintstone. Common noun: Caveman. Proper noun: Garfield. Common noun: Cat. Proper noun: New Zealand. Common noun: Country. Proper noun: Rio Grande. Common noun: River. Proper noun: Everest. Common noun: Mountain. Proper noun: Stone Age. Common noun: Period. Defining a noun as a name seems quite natural for proper nouns. However, the definition of noun as a name does not work as well for common nouns. It is not that common nouns are not names, they are. The problem is that the concept of name is so broad that it is easy to extend name to parts of speech that are not nouns. For example, jump is the name of an action, and blue is the name of a color. But in the following sentences, jump is a verb and blue is an adjective. The children tried to jump over the ditch. The new dishes are blue. Another way to identify common nouns is by taking advantage of a unique property of how they are used. Only common nouns are commonly and routinely modified by adjectives. Thus, if a word can be readily modified by an adjective, then that word must be a common noun. A particularly convenient adjective to use as a test word is the test for common nouns. If the can be put immediately in front of a word and the result makes sense, then that word is a noun. Let's apply the test to the 2 example sentences we just saw. In the first example, when we put the in front of the word jump, the result is ungrammatical. We will use X to show that we have intentionally produced an ungrammatical sentence. The children tried to jump over the ditch. The failure of the test shows us that the word jump is not being used as a noun in this sentence. Remember that the test is only relevant to this use of the word jump in this sentence. In another sentence, jump can be used as a noun. In the second example, when we put the in front of the word blue, the result is again ungrammatical. The new dishes are the blue. The failure of the test shows us that the word blue is not being used as a noun in this sentence. The test requires that the word the be immediately in front of the word being tested. The reason for this requirement is that other adjectives can separate the from the noun it is modifying. For example, in the phrase the new dishes, the word the is immediately in front of the adjective new. When you think about it for a second, it is easy to see that the is modifying the noun dishes, not the adjective new. We can confirm this by dropping the adjective. We can say the dishes. Just be sure to put the immediately in front of the word you want to test. However, the test for common nouns is not perfect. Some abstract common nouns are not used with the. For example, honesty in the following sentence. Honesty is the best policy. Saying the honesty is the best policy sounds odd at best. Outside of not being used with a few abstract nouns, the test is a simple and highly reliable test. It also has the advantage of not giving false positives. That is, the test will never tell you something is a noun when it actually isn't. Verbs. The traditional definition of verb is a word used to express action or describe a state of being. As the definition implies, there are two different types of verbs, action verbs and linking verbs that describe the subjects. Here are some examples of each type. Action verbs, Donald laughed. Linking verbs, Donald is funny. Action verbs, Jane wrote a novel. Linking verbs, the novel became a bestseller. Action verbs, Irma made some soup. Linking verbs, the soup smelled wonderful. As you can see, the verbs in the first column express some action that the subject of the sentence is carrying out. In the third example, for instance, Irma is engaged in the action of making soup. In the second column, however, the subjects are not doing anything. In the third example, for instance, the soup is not doing the smelling. Rather, the verb smelled is used to describe the soup. We will examine the distinction between action and linking verbs further in the section on verb phrases in Chapter 2. For now, we will ignore the distinction between action and linking verbs and concentrate on identifying verbs as a part of speech distinct from other parts of speech. Grammar trivia. Zero-sum animals. In Old English, a small group of nouns is now referred to as zero plurals because the plural forms are identical with their singular forms. Two nouns, deer and sheep, have kept their original zero plural forms. 3 deer and 5 sheep were in the meadow. In modern times, the zero plural form of deer has been extended to refer to other horned wild animals, such as antelope, elk, bison, and moose. The defining characteristic of all verbs is that verbs, and only verbs, have tenses: present, past, and future. Unless a word can be used in the present, past, and future tense, it is not a verb. No exceptions. Verbs come in two flavors, regular and irregular. Regular verbs form their past tenses in an absolutely regular way by adding the ending ed, sometimes just d if the verb already ends in an e. Irregular verbs form their past tense in some other irregular way, often by changing the vowel of the verb. Here are two examples, one ending with the regular verb remember and the other with the irregular verb forget. Present. Wilbur always remembers his mother's birthday. Orville always forgets his mother's birthday. Past. Wilbur remembered his mother's birthday this year. Orville forgot his mother's birthday this year. Future. Wilbur will remember his mother's birthday this year. Orville will forget his mother's birthday this year. The helping verb will, which we use to form the future tense, is a convenient test word for identifying verbs. The will test for verbs. If you can put will in front of a word and the result is grammatical, then that word must be a verb. To see how simple and effective the will test is, let's apply it to the three uses of the word round from the beginning of the chapter. Noun. Should we get another round? Verb. The horses round the last post and head for home. Adjective. He put a small, round pebble in his pocket. Now let's apply the will test for verbs. Noun. Should we get another will round? Verb. The horses will round the last post and head for home. Adjective. He put a small will round pebble in his pocket. As we would expect, the will test fails with the noun and adjective but works with the verb. Adjectives. Adjectives play two distinct roles, noun modifiers and predicate adjectives. As noun modifiers, adjectives always precede the nouns they modify. As predicate adjectives, adjectives follow linking descriptive verbs and describe the subject. Here are some examples of both types. Adjectives as noun modifiers, adjectives in italics, nouns in bold. An awful noise. The dreadful old man. 5 golden rings. The special deep dish Chicago-style pizza. Adjectives as predicate adjectives, adjectives in italics. The play was terrific. Harry sounded excited. The crust turned brown. Please remain calm. We will deal with predicate adjectives as part of the broader discussion of verb phrases in Chapter 2. Because we cannot talk about predicate adjectives without also discussing linking descriptive verbs in more detail. In this section, then, we will concentrate solely on adjectives as noun modifiers. Here's a simple test for identifying modifying adjectives. The pair test for modifying adjectives. If you can pair up a modifying word with a noun, then that word is an adjective. Using the last example of adjectives used as noun modifiers from above, here is how the adjectives pair up with the noun they modify. The special deep dish Chicago-style pizza. The pizza, special pizza, deep dish pizza, Chicago-style pizza. The pair test shows that each of the words can separately and independently modify the noun pizza. Therefore, they are all valid adjectives. The pair test is helpful in distinguishing adverbs from adjectives. Here is an example. That absolutely dreadful old man. Here's what happens when we apply the pair test. That man, absolutely man, dreadful man, old man. The pair test shows us that absolutely is not an adjective because it cannot modify the noun man. Absolutely is actually an adverb modifying the adjective dreadful. Adjectives can be subdivided into two main classes, determiners and descriptive adjectives. Determiners. Determiners are a diverse group of modifiers that precede descriptive adjectives. For example, the is a determiner and old is a descriptive adjective. We can say the old house, but we cannot reverse the order and put the determiner after the descriptive adjective. Old the house. There are at least 5 subclasses of determiners. Articles, the definite, a and an, indefinite. Demonstratives, this, that, these, those. Number words. Cardinal numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Ordinal numbers, first, second, third, plus other words indicating order, first, last, and so on. The terms cardinal and ordinal are easily mixed up. Here's a trick to remember which is which. The term ordinal refers to the order in which things occur. First, second, third, etc. Part of speech is determined by function. When nouns and pronouns are used in their possessive forms, they are functioning as adjectives and are no longer classified as nouns and pronouns per se. Possessives used as adjectives: John's, Mary's. Nouns: my, your, his, her, its, our, their. Pronouns. Quantifiers: some, many, several. Descriptive adjectives. Most, but not all, descriptive adjectives have comparative and superlative forms. Here are some examples of sentences with comparative and superlative adjectives in italics. Comparative. Fred took a smaller piece than I did. Fred has a more sensitive personality than I do. Superlative. Fred took the smallest piece. Fred has the most sensitive personality of anybody I know. As you can see, there are 2 different patterns for forming the comparative and superlative, one with ending ER and ending EST, the other with more and most. The and est pattern goes back to Old English. The more most pattern emerged in the Middle Ages and is probably a kind of translation of the way the comparative and superlative are formed in French. All 1-syllable adjectives and some 2-syllable adjectives, especially ones of native English origin, follow the est pattern. All 3-syllable or longer adjectives and some 2-syllable adjectives, especially ones of French origin, follow the more most pattern. Grammar trivia. Determining an adjective. Surprisingly, adjectives are one of the parts of speech that are most difficult to define. Traditionally, it has been an overarching category for any word that might describe a noun or pronoun, including words such as my, this, and the, which many linguists now refer to as determiners because their fundamental nature differs considerably from adjectives such as big or expensive. Here are some more examples of each type. Est pattern, brave, braver, bravest, more, most pattern, ambitious, more ambitious, most ambitious. Est pattern, shy, shyer, shyest, more, most pattern, serious, more serious, most serious. Est pattern, witty, wittier, wittiest, more, most pattern, loyal, more loyal, most loyal. Est pattern, happy, happier, happiest, more, most pattern, vicious, more vicious, most vicious. Descriptive adjectives can be easily combined. For example, descriptive adjectives in italics, nouns being modified in bold. 6 thin gray cats. That disgusting old man. A shiny new quarter. Sometimes it is necessary to separate descriptive adjectives from each other by commas. The section on commas and adjectives in Chapter 11 gives a simple way to tell when to use and not use commas with multiple descriptive adjectives.